بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه wasallam. In the name of Allah, all praise is due to the one sublime, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and much salutations upon He who is in everlasting state of praises, He whom was everlasting in the state of praises, the mercy to the entire humanity, the selected one, peace and blessings be upon him and all of his family and progeny, that our Creator mentions in the Quran until the day and that we meet him. We're continuing on with the career of the Quranic activists, and we've reached a point which has a very important impact, because it is where a transition was taking place, but it is also the point where a transition would later take place. And it is also that a transition would later on come, which had resorted from that in which took place in the first 3 to 4 years of being in Isaias. So we're not necessarily talking about the city of Dakar, and we would come to find out later on. The year again is 1985, 86, 87. When there was least amount of internet flow, if any whatsoever. It would be a year in which we would come to realize a high and a low. And the lowest point and the lowest part of the entire ordeal was when yours truly was bullied by Volkswagen. So much so that he took his wardrobe, and it was consisting of just clothes, bundled up, carried all the way out the door, followed along by Sitting Samba, or Sheikhuna Sitting Samba. In other words, Sheikhuna was the son of Sitting Samba. Mind us all that he is the older brother to Sitting Modu in Abi Samba, currently located externally from there, North America to be specific. And really, it was that low. It would even get to a point we would understand that the pressure from the father's end, in other words, from the political side, as mentioned, Rashid al-Lubnani rahimahullah, would be very close to AKF, and due to that, along with the fact that AKF himself had preferences, again, if it came to the age of adolescent, teenager, male, he really did put aside. And if they tried, or if we tried at that time, those who were at that age, he was not at that age, and there's more to be said regarding that. However, it would cause, out of all the fights among our peers, him and I would have the most. And our first fight that we witnessed that really gave us the impression that Senegal really does have an upbringing beyond that of the Gambia when it comes to preparing people. We would be at such a low point. When I say we, I mean the fact that you truly felt that there were others with you truly. That one day they were, at least this was a story. So along with the fact that the individual was there, it was an actual event that was taking place, and therefore there was more than just one party involved in the fact of the matter. Besides this point, there was another point where seclusion with darkness, seclusion with shadow, seclusion with asceticism, meaning that when we secluded away from all, and when we secluded away from all meant, and we knew at that time, at that young age, that this meant human beings, and who we were secluding to and who we were secluding for, who were we actually going towards was, and this is our story, and this is our path, this is our journey. So again, and we would seclude to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and say, what is going on? We knew the conversation back then we would have. So the bullying would go there. The feeling of lack of love would go there. The missing of home would go there. The feeling of helpless would go there. The feeling of being deprived would go there. Definitely the feeling of yearning would go there, yearning for something much better than what it actually was. But realizing under all of those circumstances that there were higher points, such as when it was time for Eid, this was a high point. Strangely enough, when it was time for Christmas and New Year's, this was also a high point. The Father made it so that everybody got presents. And another time that were high points, when he came back from France with all the gifts and presents and new clothes for everybody. So there were high points and there were low points in Isaias. And looking at the structure, when we say compromising, we were compromising all capacities, and there are still some exceptions there. But the entertainment, the media in which she did not want, and I say she, Malika Mauna Muhammad, did not want for us to have, she was able to deprive us of that, and she was able to deprive us of hard-earned or core crimes associated with any type of narcotics. This was also another blessing. This she was able, or this her decision was able to make happen. Unfortunately, we did get all of the entertainment compromises otherwise. And again, there are some exceptions. In Africa, we have, and practically if we look hard enough, well, the chemicals placed in American foods, I cannot really say. But bottom line, there are people who will resemble to be 12-year-olds, particularly females, when they're actually 14, 15. So they've already had some type of intimate orientation, and understanding to what capacity, and knowing An example would be, in America, we say we have boyfriend, girlfriend. It is very popular in America, and it starts very early in life, elementary school, no questions asked. Now, and even back then, more so, boyfriend, girlfriend is not a thing. Husband and wife is a thing at that age. You're calling each other husband and wife. So it's like you're already thinking about establishing a village. Anyhow, this was Isaias. Sitting again had that whip. Sitting, we have to mention who he was, and as we mentioned Sitting, we're going to look at other international players, because those who had televisions back then were practically watching the news all the time. And on the news, the ones who were really coming to light back then, we will note Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi, was visiting back in the 80s, and this was practically his first time visit to Senegal. But François Mitterrand was in France, president of France, and King Fahd was in Saudi Arabia. I believe Ould was in Mauritania, and Abdou Diouf was the president of Senegal at that time. AKF was a deputy of Kébémer. They call a deputy of Kébémer. So at some point now, that's also an important notification. And we talked about Abdou Diouf being on the grounds of Louga, but we're not in Louga yet, we're still in Isaias. However, it was abundantly clear that AKF had some interest or some role in the government of Abdou Diouf. So, Sitting had to be in his late 40s at the time, and again, he gave him this whoop, AKF gave him this whoop, and it was what was used for instituting corporal punishment to whoop all of the children who were in the age range and also participant in the Quranic classes that Sitting Samba had, which were coinciding with our French. When I say our, is Rashid rahimahullah and myself, because our older brother was excluded. And Sitting had again a very charismatic way of beginning to institute the whooping. Similar to the Tandar Parkat that we mentioned in the last video, where there was a queue waiting for me to get it along, and that queue was about 15 or maybe 17 of us boys. Some actually made it back on time because they remembered, but they just forgot to remind us all the boys. In the Battle of the Nile, they were, again, there was navigational tactics and operations and what were homemade tools of hunting. And there were also a hierarchy with that went along. I feel the necessity may come up later to explain and define that hierarchy, but suffice is that the military camp, which were the grounds of our French upbringing, kind of included these marches, and we mentioned also the Voices of Jannah before even coming over to Africa at that time. We also want to say that there was a similar queue when one day it's called the Dudugay queue. Duts, you remember, when Sitting came and knocked on the window during Fajr. And